Quorum?
Not quite. We don't quite have a quorum, but I expect that Rich Center will be in soon. I think you said Dell is going to be in a little bit late. Rice is going to be a little bit late. So Northern's put together the committee sourced stuff, much of which came from BITSE's subcommittee earlier that had all the school-related stuff. A lot of that's redundant, so I don't see anything. Well, there are some controversial things in here, but we'll put off any controversial stuff until we have a full quorum. But
Does anybody need a packet? Because I've got a couple.
we've got a couple of extras here, but I think everybody's got one here at the dais. So we'll go ahead and get started. Gary, you got any opening comments?
I do not.
Rankin? Steve, good to see you back.
Glad to be here.
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
John? Rhoda? Bob? Northern? Erica, no song? All right. Public comment? Any public comment from the audience members? No, thank y'all for being here. Any public comment from the those joining us via Zoom? Just raise your hand or just chime right in there. There's a hand raised from Galaxy A12. You'll probably have to unmute yourself. And I can see part of you, but I can't see all of you.
I see a ceiling fan.
I bet that's Ms. Rudd. I kind of recognize the hat, no?
I think it's Rudd.
No?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you move your
Okay,
camera?
great. Thank you. First Zoom meeting this way. Thank you. A quick question. I know going forward, my understanding is that you will be presenting your recommendations to the city, and they may choose to accept or reject the recommendations you've developed. Do we have a timeline on that process? When these meetings will be winding down? When the city might be announcing their public forum where we can attend and see what the city has to say?
We were hoping to be done by June. Obviously, we're not going to make that. My commitment, and I think my co-chair would agree with this, is we're committed to getting this done as soon as possible, but we're not going to rush it and short-circuit the committee process or the public participation. So I'm hopeful in the next couple of months we'll be able to wrap this up. We'll also be presenting to the county and to the city of Fair Oaks Ranch as well.
Thank you.
Is that it for you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on Zoom? Okay. Well, Northern, we don't believe we have the minutes for the last meeting, do we? Okay, it's a little bit early. I mean, you're good, but not that good. Okay, we have the projects committee recommendations, or committee source recommendations here that Northern has put together for us. We're going to go through those the same way that we went through the crowdsourced information. So Northern, I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay. First is that when we were going through these to organize them, we realized that we did not include the policy that was loosely discussed in here regarding roundabouts going forward, similar to the way I believe someone mentioned Fort Worth has a policy in place. And so I just put this in here to jog everyone's memory and see who was going to be voluntold to write that part of the policy.
Okay. Ben, I think you had kind of talked about grabbing the Fort Worth policy or some narrative from Fort Worth. Is that correct?
That's correct. They have that roundabout corridor up there, and then apparently they have a policy that basically necessitates that new intersections be designed as roundabouts unless the designers, engineers can show that they are not an optimized solution for that problem, for that intersection.
Is that for the whole city of Fort Worth, or you just now mentioned corridor? Is that an area? particular area?
Yeah, no, to my understanding, and of course, I'm not the one who sourced that language, but it's for the whole city of Fort Worth. And basically it's saying, look, we're going to make this our standard, and others, like signaled and other intersection designs are, need to be justified rather than presumed. It flips the whole dynamic on its head. Historically, we've always assumed a signal at intersection is the best option, but I think they have come to the realization, like we are, that there are some other perhaps better solutions as presented by roundabouts.
So you'll take responsibility for pulling whatever together?
Bobby Bally, he said he was going to handle that, and so I don't know if he's in the room today or if he's going to be, but he said he was going to actually find that language and integrate it where he felt like it would be appropriate.
I just stepped in, Ben. Thanks for pronouncing my last name properly.
Sorry about the first version.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. I do intend to pull that Fort Worth language, but I think y'all saw how my preference, my opinion is how we should write them. Is policy statement should be short, sweet, precise, and then maybe some of the purpose or the explanation of it may include some of that wording. I'll present something by Friday and for y'all's review, and y'all comment as you so desire.
Northern Dot, are we suggesting that this policy goes into the
policy statements? Yeah, I envision it being as part of the planning and section 2, planning and what is it? When we talk about standards, when we talk about looking into being a little more organized on how we approach things from city to city, from county to city. So I envision it being 2 point whatever, if y'all are okay with that. Not its separate policy statement. If y'all okay with that.
Yeah, I guess my only concern, Bobby and maybe Ben, and I don't know if where Tim is on this, but we had adopted a consensus approved policy section, and I feel like we're opening that up to more than just some little tweaking and restructuring. And I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but I don't, in light of the timeline, I don't really want to pry open a whole, re-invoking the whole nother process again.
Can we vote on it as an individual addition? In other words, we're not opening the whole document. We're just saying, hey, can we consensus or the appropriate vote count to include it in the draft?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think the committee needs to decide.
Yeah, but aren't you more or less talking about design rather than policy?
What I heard from the emails going back and forth is a policy statement recommending that roundabouts be considered, similar to eminent domain not be considered, similar to collaboration with entities be considered. It's our recommendation to prioritize them whenever possible. So I don't intend to make it very elaborate. It's going to be short and sweet, probably like the one I helped on for financial advocacy. 2 sentences at the most for the policy statement. Not a policy, it's a statement asking for policy or consideration, and then an explanation of a paragraph maybe, and that's it.
Well, the reason I say there is all sorts of intersection designs other than roundabouts. And that's what I'm saying. Do we want to list all the possible intersection types or just roundabouts? Or?
I don't think so. I think the suggestion was to do what the city of Fort Worth did and just say, by default, new intersections should be considered for roundabouts and then with justification, they are made into whatever else. So if it's not suitable for roundabout, then they will use some other type of intersection. But that should be sort of the default mode rather than a signalized four-way intersection. Just the default standard would be a roundabout. I believe that's what was in the Fort Worth code that we've heard. I still haven't seen the exact language, and I've missed some emails. I know I'm behind on emails. So.
Okay, well, I think there's some good points to be made here. If it applies only to signalized intersections, that's a whole lot fewer intersections than all intersections. And so Jeff,
that was my kind of question for clarification, is like inside a normal neighborhood, two local streets intersect, is that a roundabout? Or is this when collector roads intersect or arterial roads intersect, or where, just I think that could be some clarified a little further.
And then beyond that, there's a question of jurisdiction here. Most of the signalized intersections that we have are on TxDOT roads, and we can pass all the policies we want, but if the policy doesn't include encouraging the affected political subdivision, the city or the county, to encourage TxDOT to use roundabouts, then our policy is pretty much emasculated. So I think all of those things need to be considered.
Correct. I had written a draft one, was going to send it back, but I thought I'll just stand back and let everybody. I did want to include private and public opportunities and include a certain category of roadway, because I agree not every intersection should be it. But and remember, we're not writing policy here. It's a policy statement of what I consider these things. It's just, hey, we're suggesting to the powers that be to consider roundabouts in these cases or greater. And that's it. It's just telling them, consider this. Folks, this stuff doesn't have teeth anyway. The cities can do whatever they darn well please too. I mean, not that they will, but it's a policy statement that saying this committee would prefer that we look at roundabouts first in these situations, and that's it.
Well, I do think because it is trying to pursue change, something that is uncomfortable, maybe unfamiliar, that we probably need to bolster that with a little bit of explanation about what the benefits of roundabouts are for the.
Okay, good point.
But, doesn't need to be, the gospel, but something.
Well, I would think that you were going to look at, based on what intersection it is, what traffic volume, where it's at, that the roundabout is just one consideration of other applicable intersection designs. That's why I say I don't know that you really want to say you want to look at roundabouts first. I think what you want to do is look at appropriate intersection designs that fit specific location, because a lot of them are not necessarily right angle intersections. And some of the intersections have got a whole lot of traffic on one side, none on the other. And I don't know. It just, to me, it's one of them that you would look at, but it's not necessarily the priority.
Are there categories in y'all's world that signalized and non-signalized intersections? Is that how you describe those things? So you could say.
Well, there's a whole group of what I would call is innovative intersection design. I mean, what are some of them, Steve? The CFI
displaced left
flow,
turn.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got the urban intersection.
Single point urban inters, SPUI.
SPUIs, yeah.
So maybe
I think
you could say vague rather than, just going down, I don't want to get too caught up in this and stuck here, but, you could make it vague, and so that you hit the roundabout and hit everything, but say start with the innovative,
Yes, to all of
modern
the above.
ideas,
I agree.
and then if those don't work, go
And I
to signal
think it's
line.
very simple to just say where deemed appropriate.
Yeah.
A roundabout should be the first priority where deemed appropriate or feasible. And I mean, there's so many benefits from the long-term cost of maintaining signals and all that to traffic flow. And so I think if you say that, then future planners will say, nope, that's not a right angle. That's the wrong type of traffic flow here. That's not appropriate, and that's all.
But that's
I wouldn't
too little
necessarily say
traffic or
it's-
too much traffic.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the primary one you want to look at. It's one that would be considered.
I'll give it a shot, and then we'll tear it up from there.
Okay.
Yeah, and John, the reason for even bringing this topic up, I believe, is that while you describe it as one of the things that would be looked at, the predominant history of our state has been to not look at them very seriously, to not take roundabouts. That's something they do in Europe, and they're weird. And so for somebody to say, we want you to at least look at roundabouts first, as much as a mental jog as anything, to say, don't just go down the road, let's not keep building the same kind of dysfunctional intersections we've been building without considering other ones, whether it turns out to be a roundabout or one of these other things you just listed. I think the point was stop and think about it before you just slap a traffic light down and consider it finished. I think that's the point of the exercise. Even if it's to ask TxDOT, when you're building roads in our area, please think about alternative intersection designs before you just put a signal on. I think that's all we can accomplish.
Yes.
All right, we'll look forward to that, Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Moving on to the next one. Northern?
This was another, I kind of put it under policy, I'm not sure quite where it fits in. This was from the subcommittee / Bernie ISD, timed gates in subdivisions. Timed gates to allow for better traffic flow during highest volume hours, open during the hours of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Did I say that right? This reduces travel time for students. Kendall Point, for one example, currently operates with timed gates. I don't know exactly where this fits.
So this is something we've discussed, I think, as from Champion Heights through.
Yeah, we looked at several selected specific intersections, but I think this would be good to incorporate into our policy discussion that says when you're considering this, particularly the city, county, and Fair Oaks in the future.
Would it be possible, what I would like to discourage is timed gates in place of no gate. And so it could be that somebody reads this and thinks, oh, well, there's no gate here. We want a timed gate between these subdivisions or something. Is there a way to just make sure that this is worded in a way that means, does that make sense? Like the gates need to be, we're trying to encourage more connectivity and more movement, not less.
Yeah, interconnectivity.
My recollection from the meetings, this was existing gates that are there,
Right.
most of the time to private neighborhoods, that we wanted to have the gates in the morning and the afternoon when the school buses are coming in and out. We just wanted to have them stay open for a period of time so the buses could come in and out. And the bus drivers weren't responsible for having 10 different gate clickers to open all the different gates.
That's right. You're remembering it correctly. And there were a number of subdivisions mentioned.
Northern, is there a way you can make a note about that? We're talking about existing gates.
Yeah, the point you're making is that you don't want to put gates where there's no gates to start.
Right.
Are y'all saying that's a policy statement, and who wants to write it?
Well, interconnectivity's already been written.
Yeah, I think the bones of that.
The interconnectivity policy statement talks about subdivision ordinances and road planning that have permanent roadways, permanent sections of roadways that connect subdivisions without having to go to the main streets. But it doesn't talk about the timing of the gates. I think that'd be something separate.
Or just
Additional incentives.
just a
For additional.
bullet, yeah.
Rich, I would comment that I know of other school districts that basically say the bus won't go into the neighborhood if they don't have the gates set up to be timed. So there's other school districts that do that.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, Northern, the jurisdiction on this sheet says Fair Oaks Ranch.
Yeah, that's me. I can fix that very easily.
Right, so if they don't set up the gates to open automatically, then the school bus stop for the entire neighborhood is basically outside the gate.
I like it. Rich, are you taking notes?
I am.
Standing.
That may be the kind of pressure that's got community pressure that's got to get HOAs to listen.
Okay, that's in. Next.
This is Scenic Loop Road, timed traffic lights during peak school traffic hours of 7 a.m., 9 a.m., same hours as I said before, giving priority to cross-traffic over frontage road traffic.
Jurisdiction's wrong.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Text dot. And they, I understand with the lane improvements, they're supposed to be correcting that.
So they are going to be fixing this?
They're supposed to be fixing it.
For the longest period of time during construction, TxDOT admitted that they were favoring the frontage roads. But now that construction, hopefully that section of construction is finished. Hopefully it's back to normal traditional timing. But this would be even looking at the signal timing of the step and beyond to make sure. Because they will do the intersection counts, and they will set the signals to run wherever the most cars are coming from, so.
I don't think we ought to put this in there. I mean,
No.
it's an issue, but there are so many things changing with the construction, with the future location of schools and where the school traffic goes. I just think,
And I think you haven't seen the improvements work yet, because they finished just recently, and you won't see them until school starts again, when Bernie South and Kendall and Geneva get kicked up again. That's when the craziness starts.
And
But I think it
a
won't
year or
be.
two, the city's going to tear that all cascade and see part there up under construction as well, so.
I say we pass.
I agree.
any objection to omitting that?
I think we'll all admit that that intersection is
Text up.
always a problem.
Yeah. Okay, no objections, it's out.
This is increased signage improvements around 3351 and 46 East in Bergheim, directing traffic down 3351, those who are trying to reach I-10.
Same thing, should we forward
Text
just to
dot.
text dot?
We could put 100 signs up, but if their GPS doesn't tell you to go that way, people aren't going to follow the signs. And that's,
Well,
I
so,
mean, you mean like a sign that says I-10 south
you know,
this way?
well, and if you coordinate with the routing companies that tell your phone where to, I don't know how to do that, but there is a way to
There's a way to ask them.
influence them to,
most of them are using real-time traffic
Yeah,
data now. that
where the
will
congestion is.
Change your route depending on the route, so.
I mean, I imagine that there might be some people in Fair Oaks who might not love us trying to route traffic that way. You think I'd be incorrect about that, Bobby?
I remember driving through and there's a sign somewhere, there's a sign somewhere that tells you can go, I can't remember what,
It's westbound 46. There's a sign that says I-10 X miles. I don't remember exactly.
Yes.
But it's definitely westbound 46.
there's already something up. Regardless, I don't think it'll help. And yes, I do. I have heard Fair Oaks folks say, why push more people down Ralph Fair Road? I think they're going to go down there whether you put signs up or not. I would tell both parties, whether you're from Fair Oaks or not.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
suggestion to eliminate this one?
Yes.
Any objection to eliminating? Okay, it's out.
Similar suggestion for better signage on 46, directing people down the HERF.
Yeah, I think this was early in the process, and it was like when you come around westbound on River Road, you don't know which lane to be in, if I remember right.
I think it, and also just telling people that you don't have to go through Main Street to get to I-10,
I-10.
that you can get there by HERF.
I mean, we've had the discussion a number of times about this sort of within town, either roundabout linked or kind of this sort of a way around downtown to get to the interstate. And, you know, this south route, I believe with the redesign they're doing at I-10 now, there will be a north. Do you know at the South Main, if you follow Main Street all the way south to where it connects, will there be a way to go north on the interstate right there with the way it's being redesigned?
On the access
There'll
road.
be a way to go
Frontage road.
north on the frontage road.
Yeah.
And the frontage, okay, because currently there's not, right? The current system, there's no, thank you, Northern.
Right
And
here?
so you could have a sign that just says I-10, and people, the idea is people take HERF, they get on Main South, hit there, and they can go either north or south on I-10.
No, but I got to thinking about that last time we looked at this. And the reason we've got so much traffic on River Road is that's part of 46 that goes to Main Street. They go down Main to Bandera and to 10. If you shoot them this way, you overshot. You're way too far south. They got to come back up north.
You're right, but we're trying to get them around the big, like, because Bandera is a big congested nightmare. I mean, if it's definitely faster to go this way, even though it's
Well, the
longer.
reason they're going that way is that's the way it's signed. To go from 46, it goes to Main Street, down
Right.
Main to Bandera. That's why they're following it. It's signed that way.
I think your example and these last two are very good examples how you can't give people directions on where they need to go. Most of this traffic that you're trying to influence is regular traffic every day. I mean, let's say we do put signs up for every, hey, it's quicker this way to get to I-10. It's quicker this way to go to Candelia or whatever it may be. Those people that are doing this are 5 times a week. They just need to see the sign once, and we're keeping the sign up for years and having more signs to maintain. These are instructional signs that we're talking about, and the people that are doing this 5 times a week should know what's quickest. And sometimes it's not the quickest. Sometimes it's quickest to go straight instead of left, depending on what's going on during the day. So I would say we pass on this one too.
Well, and the other thing is, the people that are through traffic, they're probably using GPS that's telling them to go to Main Street and on that way.
And who knows the quickest? Typically GPS or,
Interestingly,
not always right, but 9 times out of 10 they are.
we've been having a challenge in Texas Parks and Wildlife lately with getting signs pointed towards wildlife management areas. And there was some TxDOT policy that was passed, and they've been actually going out and removing signs so they don't have to maintain them
So many signs.
long-term. And it's been driving people nuts because all these signs we used to have are now gone, and they're going around and so anyway.
But you
Why did they
could,
do away with the wildlife?
but you could tell Waze, you could tell Waze, you could tell Google Maps, and
Sure.
it takes you straight to there.
Right.
That's the
I'd say
times are different.
scratch this from the end.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a recommendation to eliminate this one.
Yeah.
Any objections? Long.
Okay, now, we're getting into a couple of the Bernie ISD connectivity issues that they identified. Sable Chase and Fallbrook are connected at the intersection of Sable Run and Millstone Cove. I do not know if those are city or private.
Well, it's not in Fair Oaks, it's in Bear County.
It's county?
So this would be.
We really can't, that's out of our jurisdiction, out of our purview.
It's in
These are
Bacon?
2 separate subdivisions.
Yeah, it's in the Bear County portion of the school district, so it's not in Fair Oaks Ranch.
That's way down south.
Yeah, it's way down south.
This is Bear County. It's off of, it's
So I'd say scratch something.
Out. Yeah, we don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah. It's not even Fair Oaks Ranch.
The next one,
Well, isn't the next one in Bear County too?
I think so.
Napa Woods is. In fact, it's down below Fair Oaks Parkway.
And some of these are just a matter of convenience. I mean, I know there's neighborhoods behind, and the kids have to go through a closed gate to go to a school.
These were identified by the transportation gentleman from Bernie ISD, so
Right.
it is an issue for the buses.
For bus, okay.
The last two definitely are, and it troubles them, particularly like in Fallbrook on the previous slide, there's like 170 kids from K through 12 that live in that subdivision, so it'd be nice to have access, but if that's beyond the purview of us, then that's something that, to the point that Jeff made before, you work out with the subdivisions.
Is there an entity that we could just provide these to and say, hey, these are recommendations that we received?
Bear County.
Who's the commissioner there now? She's-
DeBerry, oh, no,
No,
Marilyn
she's running for judge.
Barnard.
There's a new person, interim.
Yeah, Marilyn Barnard,
That's it.
yeah.
Or you go back to the policy where the buses won't enter unless the gate's open.
Well, I think, my guess is the commissioner doesn't even understand, and she hadn't been around that long on this kind of stuff, so it's probably just good for us to pass along, say this came up during our conversation.
And we do have a policy statement that talks about trying to eliminate these. You know, if there was a house there in that cul-de-sac and a house on the other side, it wouldn't be an issue. They wouldn't be requesting it, they'd just be putting up with having to go in and go out. You know what I mean? But the county let them do this bit and then put a gate there, so if they were to
Okay.
eliminate that or, anyway, out.
Bob and I'll write a letter to the appropriate person.
I think we need BISD to use that policy. If you want our school bus, you're gonna open some gates.
We can tell them what you're gonna do, Rich. They're not gonna pick your kid. Okay, next one.
Maybe Rich should draft a policy statement to add to the policy document about, we recommend BISD adopt policy.
Ooh.
Throwing him under this.
We should take that to the president of the board.
Okay, so we've got, this is a subcommittee, this is also in the major thoroughfare plan. Connect Johns Road and 46 West via Spencer Ranch Development.
I just don't understand why we would pass something through that's already on the thoroughfare plan. I think we should just say we support the designs of the thoroughfare plan and leave it there.
Yeah,
There are a lot-
I'm saying the same thing. A lot of these things are exactly, it's already on the third plan, so why?
I agree with Mr. Kite. There are a lot of,
Yeah, we could go through this whole thing and approve every single segment of the thoroughfare plan, but that doesn't make sense, so.
Yeah.
So just nix it.
I would recommend we nix it and just put a note on thoroughfare plan.
I can do that.
The only time we'd comment on the thoroughfare plan is if we disagreed with it.
but
Yeah.
we passed other segments of requested roadways that are already on the thoroughfare plan, including Adler, going across through the,
Right, and I think what we'll do is we will group that. These are suggestions that came from committee source, from crowd source, meeting places, the thoroughfare plan, portions of the thoroughfare plan were suggested. The committee, unless they object to it, generally supports the thoroughfare plan, provided it's done by the developers and blah, blah, blah.
yes. Does it hit the alignment pretty well?
It's close, so.
Close?
And it's a dotted line that says for illustration only, so I think they're meant to be.
Yes, that's me at home. Just
Okay, yeah.
drawing a dotted line.
Nice work.
Hey, thanks.
Well, and the next couple are going to be the same thing.
I don't understand this next one.
The next,
So this was the subcommittee, City of Bernie agreement calls for an east-west collector to connect Scenic Loop Road and Upper Balcones, paid for by developer.
So.
I have the shared use path on the pedestrian map.
So this current City of Bernie major thoroughfare plan has a east-west road that connects scenically to Upper Balcones in this general area. The Corley Farms development, which is under construction, you drive out there now, they're building this roadway. That's what's under construction today, and others. So it'll be basically, they're only building it to the limits of their development, which is kind of where the green line stops. So just whoever the next property over, if it were to ever develop, would want to have that road continue on all the way to Upper Balcones.
Where is the shared use path? I'm not sure I see that.
That's from the neighborhood, that's from Bernie Heights, Kennel Creek Estates, which is known as Bernie Crossing, where there could be a bike pedestrian path to Valerie Lane so that that would facilitate pedestrian and bicycle.
Corley Farms will have a new, schools purchased a property and we'll be building a new elementary school in that property. And more than likely, the neighborhood will be going to that school. So just a way to get pedestrian and bike without having to get out on scenic loop road to be able to connect.
So it's the area, the northeast quadrant of that kind of shaded area is Kendall Point, I believe.
Kendall Creek Estates.
And what the suggestion is, somewhere from that white body there needs to be a shared use path to wherever the school is in the shaded area.
Can you see it there, Commissioner? You can see it there.
Right there.
Not on yours, but on that one.
Because the school will be.
Okay.
Somewhere in here.
Yeah, exactly, north of Corley Road there.
School's supposed to be here.
And abutting Corley Road.
Correct.
So what do we want to do with this?
Yeah, so is this already in the
Keep it.
thoroughfare plan? Or is this slightly different than what's in the thoroughfare plan?
So, again, it's slightly different location, and that's, as a city, we're okay with stuff shifting here or there. We want the connectivity between Scenic Loop and Upper Balcones. So that part one is in progress. Part two is basically connecting, in my mind, it's connecting the existing Kendall Estates neighborhood somehow to connect to the proposed Corley Farms neighborhood, so people can get from one neighborhood to the next neighborhood to get to the elementary school.
Before they put a gate there. So yes, I would say we support it.
Yeah. So who would do that?
City up.
So yeah, there's, again, it's a lot of these pedestrian bike paths are kind of would have to go in between existing lots of having to find a place. There's a detention pond over there that maybe they can put a trail next to that detention pond or.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is the city of Bernie's not going to go build it. It's not in the city of Bernie. You do have control over their planning process by virtue of the development agreement.
Correct.
So you could require the developer to build it.
Yeah, I think that ship has sailed because that agreement's in place and our ordinances don't have that connectivity in there.
Okay. You could ask the developer.
We could ask them nicely.
But you could not enforce it.
Yeah, correct.
I have a question for Ben. Can you see this one, Ben? You still there? By chance, is it on the trail plan?
Yes.
It is?
The shared use.
Can't have your answer, but I can't see it yet. Northern and I are trying to get me access to that document.
Awesome. I suggest we keep it in then. It is a potential location of the Trail Committee has.
So move the shared use path to the Trails
Yeah,
Committee stuff?
it's on there.
Okay.
Yes, it's on
I
there.
never got it off of this page.
Okay.
So this one is north-south collector or connector behind the new Buc-ee's down to Regent Park and Corley Farms.
Isn't it already on the thoroughfare plan?
It is, and there is a small section that will need right-of-way, correct, Jeff? Right south of,
Yes, so this is on the thoroughfare plan, and right now Buc-ee's will build a section of it. Regent Park has built a portion of it, and they're about to start building the next piece. But yeah, there's a parcel in between Buc-ee's and Regent Park that Mr. Miller owns, and we've talked to a handful of people about developments on that site. And then that road would continue south from Regent Park into the back side of the Corley Farms project that we talked about earlier. That's all.
I would recommend we skip this one too. Just say it's on the thoroughfare plan.
The city doesn't need to do anything extra to bring this about other than just wait for it to develop.
Correct.
Okay. I agree with you.
But what do y'all mean by skip? I'm having trouble following. I thought we were supporting and moving forward and continuing to consider those streets that are coming in from crowdsource that are on the thoroughfare plan. Are you saying skip it?
I'm just saying it's already going to be built. It's on the plan. It's already happening. I don't know what the value is of going through all elements, like different random elements of the thoroughfare plan. I just think it adds confusion.
Or say that we acknowledge it and support it.
Is that what we're doing for all of the rest? I thought we were doing something different than.
So I would say my recommendation would be if the committee thinks we need to build a road, not part of the thoroughfare plan, we need to build a road tomorrow, like start building a road, then we say that. But if it's going to be built as part of thoroughfare plan and it's already on the thoroughfare plan, which has a bunch of roads and is pretty comprehensive, then we would just leave. I mean, I just don't understand the value of going through all of the roads that are recommended that are already going to be built.
I see it as a value to support it, just as we're supporting improvements to HERF and River and 46 and improvements. We've supported Adler, we've supported School Street improvements, and those are on the thoroughfare plan too. So
The distinction, I think, Bobby, is that in one case, the political subdivision is responsible for the improvement. In this case, the timing and the construction of the improvement is the developer.
So we've been skipping them, just not considering them, just skip it. Okay?
I believe this is what is formulated in my mind, maybe I'm off base, that we will have a statement that says we generally support the thoroughfare plan as presented. If there are exceptions, we'd say with the exception of 1, 2, 3. But we support the thoroughfare plan with the caveat that the thoroughfare plan is brought into being, those roads are brought into being by the developer as the property is developed, not through the use of eminent domain.
Okay.
Unless
and
there's a little short section that needs to be completed.
And we should follow such policies on eminent domain and
So it's not that we're skipping.
Greenfield and Camp Bullis and, yes, all right.
I just see these as already happening, like this.
Okay.
Right here. So.
Got it.
Bryce, glad you could be with us.
Thanks for having me late.
You didn't mean that.
For number 18, I realized after I created the PDF that it is not the correct picture. The correct picture is on the screen. This is a similar area. This is the Regent Park, is it Boulevard? Will eventually reach all the way over to Upper Balcones. According to this,
Correct. So this alignment is on our thoroughfare plan as well. The Regent Park people have been building the road to the limits of their development. Before Regent Park, Minger Springs provided the right-of-way. They didn't have to build the roadway section, but on the southern end of Minger Springs, they provided right-of-way. And then there's just, you can kind of see the limits of the gray of where Minger Springs is. And then there's a little bitty gap from where Minger Springs goes to Upper Balcones that we don't have right away. And that'll be whoever, if that track's ever developed. So that'll be another east-west connector from Upper Balcones to Scenic Loop.
Can you, you said a little bitty section that is,
Yeah, that's right here.
So yeah, so where the cursor is now from that point to a little bit east, stop there.
Where Minger Springs.
Plus or minus there, we don't have right-of-way or any planned developments that we're aware of.
and how far is that?
2,000, 3,000 feet.
Half a mile, okay.
But the entire southern leg of Minger Springs, we have right-of-way, 1,000 feet less. The entire southern leg of Minger Springs, as part of their development, they had to give the right-of-way, but they didn't have to build the road. And then the Regent Park development is having to provide the right-of-way and build the road. You can see they've built about half of it so far.
So if the right-of-way through Regent Park is provided, but there's no road there,
So Regent Park is doing the right-of-way and the road.
Minger Springs is not building the road. How's that road going to get built?
That'll be a future city project one day.
Okay, now here's one I think we need to suggest because the city would be responsible.
Well, is the property to the south there? I mean, there's no development plan there, but that property could develop at some
Very
point.
much so, correct.
Right, and so there would be a potential way of connecting that road
Correct.
through that south
Correct.
property if that developed as well.
And so that goes back to the roads on our thoroughfare plan. We've talked about it, there's exact state law about rough proportionality that we can't make every developer build every single road. And so Minger Springs, it wasn't proportional and we couldn't require them to actually build the pavement, but it actually is a big win just to get the right-of-way lots of times and have that right-of-way in place. So that, at the time, we got the right-of-way, so that we just have this 1,000-foot, but it could be, we could decide to reroute it. Someone comes in and buys that tract to the south and they want to pull it down to the south to run through their property to give them more frontage. As a city, we're okay with that. We just want general connectivity.
But that section is on the thoroughfare plan.
Correct.
If the property to the south were developed, that rough proportionality statement, and so you wouldn't be able to get that developer to pay for the development of the road.
It depends. It's a catch-22 to get them to build as much stuff. It has to be very dense development and generate a lot of demand on the roadway system. If they generate a lot of demand on the roadway system, we can get them to build a lot of improvements. If they show up and do a very not dense development, we can't get them to ask. So Minger Springs is large acreage lots. When we do all the math of the rough proportionality, we couldn't make them build a roadway.
And so they don't have, Minger Springs doesn't have any roadways that connect into that potentially?
They have their plan calls for a third gate at that location. So their active development is set up and there's a strip there for the third gate to connect to that road.
I can see where.
So they might do it at some point in time just for their own self-interest.
Northern, can you
Right
show
there.
us a little bit more to the north on this map? A little bit more still, yeah. I'm just wondering, so is it follow that little dotted line, or is it, no,
So
it connects to,
there's an LCRA High Line there.
right,
Those are the towers.
okay. And then where would the road go to after, it would connect right there to, okay.
Yeah. So Regent Boulevard.
Nice project.
What is the, I'm wondering though about like the benefits that this creates. So if you go north on Scenic Loop, it brings you to the highway. Like if people are trying to go to San Antonio, is the idea that it's faster for people? Like what is the main aim of this connection?
The next east-west would be
Corley.
Leon Springs
or Corley,
I-10,
and then on
yeah.
the north, it's, I mean, they're not but how far is Regent from Corley? Can you do the measuring?
There's a significant amount of traffic that goes up north on Upper Balcony Road and then turns right at the Starbucks there to go south on I-10.
That's more than a mile,
More than
ouch.
And you get,
Hospital access.
That's,
You go back and look at the existing thoroughfare
And then
plan,
to the
it's
north,
kind of
what's the
a
next
grid
east-west?
concept with collector roads mile-ish apart from each other.
can't see it up north, though. 6,000 feet's a long way for your next east and west. Your next east and west would be 46, and that's more than a mile, too. And without that, you're shoving everybody to Upper Balcones and to 2 outlets, and that's 46 and Leon Springs. If you don't connect them to roadway that
Regent Park. Northern, would you mind showing where Upper Balcones Road connects with I-10? Like just zoom out a little bit so we can see, okay.
right there.
Starbucks.
Right by a coffee shop. We're screwed up intersection.
What are people's thoughts about the demand down there? Is that a pretty high, I guess there's a lot of development happening, right? There's WCID 3 and all that.
It will be there.
Yeah, right now there's not, but there will be. I mean,
And that, I think even the demographic study shows that area is one of the potentially fastest growing areas.
And next to that light gray west of Upper Balcones, Jeff, I think that's Isbell.
Isbell Ranch.
Isbell
correct.
Ranch.
So that's a development that had a development agreement with the city 10 years ago and has just never been developed, 10 plus years ago.
That's the one that told me they'd never develop that. One of the things we don't have on here is Corin Road.
I think it's
Upper
up there.
Balcones hits the,
It's in the interim report. It's on there. That one.
Approving that.
I mean, I don't remember seeing it in here.
It's in the, are we talking about our,
Talking about Corin Road.
It's not in this particular group of projects, but it is in the interim committee.
I mean, it seems like this is an area of high growth. I think that there's a way that we could maybe phrase this where, I mean, maybe it's more of a long-term plan. I don't think we don't need it tomorrow. We could use it, especially as WCID is developed. I would prefer to see it, to not have to use some sort of, forced acquisition of right-of-way. I'd much prefer to see it use the, be able to shift
Subdivision.
that onto that property to the south or something, as that were developed. But otherwise, I would say, I think it seems like it makes some amount of sense.
I think this particular situation, if we want to take the time to explain it and make some contingent recommendations, would educate or at least provide a basis for understanding the complexity of the situation. I mean, it depends on how the property downstream, down below it develops, as to what the city is going to do, what they're able to do. And that influences whether we even need to think about eminent domain connecting. I mean, just to say that there's a good intention here from a major thoroughfare plan, but there's nothing guaranteed. And I think it may help people understand whether they're interested or not, about how these things are a little bit fluid in coming about.
Question, Jeff, is that large light gray area where you mentioned that if that land ever gets developed, the extension from Regent Boulevard could go through the lower part rather than having the need to get the right-of-way in that small slice. Is that the same property owner as the one that sold the land to Backey for WCID 3?
No.
I think it's different.
Different landowner? Okay.
No, one of the things you need to think about Upper Balcones is it turns in when it goes into Bear County. I think the closest one where you can get back to 10 is through the Tarpon Drive area there. So there needs to be some sort of connections. Otherwise, you're forcing all the traffic always onto one road. So there needs to be interim rather than going all the way down to Fair Oaks. There needs to be something in the middle.
So Upper Balcones turns into Toutant Beauregard, where it
Right.
crosses the county line, and then Toutant Beauregard turns in, they have an intersection with Scenic Loop, so it goes all the way down, but there's no,
Scenic Loop's where it cuts over the
at the Bernie stage, yeah. So, I mean, there's no connectivity between those two roads,
Right.
currently.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need to.
Mr. Kyle?
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to chime in for a second about the scale of Region Park. It could be as many as 950 homes, FYI.
Thank you.
Interesting.
So anyhow, but that's in Bear County, but it's still, we need some horizontal east-west.
I think we should leave that connection, leave that project in here and struggle a little bit with how we present it or include the recommendation.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think if we can qualify that, like the way you said, talking about the different options and the avoidance of eminent domain in there, also the cost to the city, all that. This is a slightly complicated little piece.
Yet less complicated than any other east-west in the area, because if you look at everything else, it's hodgepodge of built-out neighborhoods that you can't get through.
That's my cousin's name.
I think you're right, Bobby. There's an opportunity to do it right, because when you drive, the land between Upper Balcones and Interstate 10 tends to be fairly flat. And not that I'm advocating for development there, but those seem to be the kinds of properties that developers go after and throw a lot of money at landowners. So, I know water's an issue, but we have to think what could happen were this area between Upper Balcones, south of 46, all the way further south to the county line. If a chunk of that gets developed, what are we looking at? We're looking at a huge population base.
And your students, our students, will be headed eastbound to Bernie Middle and to Kendall, probably not. I'm sorry, there's already
There's an elementary there, yeah.
That's right. But middle school, let's say, they won't ever have to get on I-10.
Okay, we got that one covered adequately now. At least what we're going to do with it. So we're going to 20.
I was looking at this one. This one, to me, makes some sense, but I don't know who the property owner is, and I don't know if it's on the thoroughfare plan. May not be priority.
I don't think it's on the thoroughfare plan.
It's not currently on our thoroughfare plan.
Northern, would you mind bringing this up on the map? It's so zoomed in here. I'm trying to see what Enterprise Parkway connects to.
Nothing.
It's a dead end.
Nothing, just to.
Scenic Loop.
It's right there.
Yeah, scenic loop. It's really just an industrial area or business area, let's call it.
But bear in mind that Corley Farms, for them, and ultimately that's going to be 1,300 homes, something like that. Those folks will, to get to Interstate 10, have to go on Scenic Loop. So were Enterprise Parkway to be expanded to the freeway, that would give you a second option.
And those businesses along Enterprise Park may not want that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not on the thoroughfare plan?
Not currently, no.
Is there an east-west proposed on the thoroughfare plan between Regent and Leon Springs? Leon Springs is the next one down, is that correct?
Well, the only thing I think's going to happen is the Balcones Drive, which is just not, they're talking about extending that over
Right.
to Balcones.
Pretty sure that's going to happen.
Yeah, so there's a private single-family development that is looking to extend Balcones Creek Drive on the north edge of the airport.
You know where the
all the
new
way to Bernie
overpass
State.
is?
Sort of scroll further down,
Yes.
further
Oh,
south.
yes, yes.
That's going to extend
Yeah.
past the
Yeah.
Alamo or the
Oh, that one right
college.
there.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that Balcones Creek is the kind of entrance road to
Right
the
here.
ACCD property.
Go
So
further
it would go up,
This way?
up
No,
and
the other way,
over
the
with
other
the
way.
existing development? Or the
Yeah, right
airport?
there, that's
Right,
right.
directly to the east.
That's a nice
Yeah,
one.
There you go.
Yeah, like
I didn't know about that one.
So this is a Bear County issue, but it's not in Kendall County or City of Bernie. But we've been told that there's a private development now that's going to connect Balcones Creek to Bernie Stage Road at that location.
At
Yeah,
the
'cause that
roundabout?
the land just
There's
to
a roundabout
the
there.
east.
Yes, sir.
The land, it's 66 acres, something like that. The land just east of Bernie Stage Road, before you get to the airfield, that was sold, I forget which home builder.
Meritage.
Meritage, yeah, they bought like 65, 70 acres. There was a 51 acre tract, and then they bought 15 acres from the neighbor next door, and I think they're going to build 200 houses, something like that. That's their plan. And that's why there's the connection from Balcones Creek over to Bernie Stage Road. Because the land above Balcones Creek, Alamo Community owns that land.
And that's where, well.
So back to Enterprise Parkway Extension.
I think we have that one in there because remember eastbound scenic loop would back up when construction was going on, and that was to provide an outlet out. And I don't think that congestion occurs there right now.
Yeah, it's not, the congestion isn't near as bad as it used to be.
I think my thoughts are the purpose of the road's a bit different. It being, I think when they laid out that road, one, it's not on the thoroughfare plan, you're saying, Jeff, and two, it's more of a industrial center for those businesses. I would suggest we just leave it alone.
We've got to leave it out suggestion.
Well, a road like that, now that the frontage roads are one way, they're not as good, because if you drive on it and hit 10, you gotta turn right.
Correct.
And to get to it from the north, you gotta be on the frontage road and turn right. So far as going back and forth, that's,
Doesn't help much.
it's not very good.
I mean,
I agree.
In the future, it could take some traffic out of that intersection, though, if congestion ever gets bad
Right.
for that approach. It does give you an option, you know.
It gives you an
It's a
option
blow-off
route.
valve, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, should we,
That was why, Steve, I believe, Jeff, was that the project subcommittee that looked at this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the logic behind it.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in time, a year or two ago, I-10 traffic was backing up to Sophia Circle there to Apple Tree. I mean, it was, every day it was backing up that far. And so that was something that, well, we could get through Enterprise, but
should
I don't
we,
think it's backing up that way anymore.
Well,
It's-
even if you went to 10, you couldn't turn left.
Correct. Yeah, it would just be, this would be for people heading to San Antonio.
But if people are headed, did the subcommittee look at, if you use Enterprise Parkway, take a right, you're headed to San Antonio, can you get on, is there an on-ramp before you get to the next traffic signal?
Yeah.
That would help. If not, you're pushing people to that intersection, is what I'm saying.
yeah, where is that next on-ramp? So,
Right by the county line, I think.
okay, so,
And
Well,
also,
off-ramp.
is this not where the next HEB is going to go?
Yep.
So theoretically, if you live right here,
you could have more.
you're going to go right here for HEB.
The Heb.
So if you're here and you have to go to HEB, you're going to have to go all the way up to Scenic Loop and come back down.
I mean, what would be the harm in saying that the city could consider this, or might at least give some thought about including this on their thoroughfare plan? It seems like, if that little piece of property develops there, they could I don't know, or maybe it could be studied a little bit to determine if it would be valuable, or like y'all said, a relief valve if the traffic starts to get really bad at the intersection again.
So I mean,
Well, I
that's a good-
mean, you've got Corley Farms coming, and the progress to that intersection is great, What are you going to do when you have those 1,200 homes built?
Zoom down. Oh,
There's a driveway right there.
You're crossing, you're splitting a square piece of property,
Already built in round.
then splitting a triangle. What is,
Where'd it go?
y'all know, what's that utility, or there's a corridor that goes north and south that you'd have to cross? I mean, I'm not trying to design it here, but
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like,
almost there to the right, put your cursor to the right, right there. Then you moved it.
I
Oh.
think Cole Motion Parkway is a cooler name than Enterprise.
yeah.
What is that? Is that a road?
It's Enterprise. It looks like a driveway or something.
I mean, you could route that road though up to the north.
290s, yeah.
Yeah, so well, not 290, but see how Cold Motion Parkway veers south there? It could veer back north, right, past that building and connect right up there,
Because
right?
you'd want it to intersect in at 90 degrees to I-10, so yeah, that kind
Sure.
of makes sense.
But right there at Hovey Used Cars, you
Slide-
could
slide
turn
everything
and
down.
out. But is that a creek that you'd be crossing at?
I think that's just old property.
It's a
line.
mighty straight creek, if that's all right, yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, you're right, the drainage ditch or,
Oh, yeah, there's a
Like
road
a
there.
right-of-way. I think it's just a flag to old frame.
I'm sorry, Hovey's Motor Cars, not used cars.
Hovey's Motor.
When false advertised.
Well, the more cars you can get off of Cascade Caverns, that's more green time you can give to the other approaches. So,
That's true,
you know,
says Mr. Traffic.
Yeah.
That goes back to the blow-off valve concept of having throttle points, that we're trying to create grids and remove throttle points.
Yeah, I mean, the flip side is you have a feeder road with a bunch of cars, pulling in on it at a slow speed, causing potential more conflict points and stuff. But
Right,
I would feel comfortable suggesting that the city consider it. I don't know that we want to say that we recommend it based on the information we have here today, but
One more question. What's that purple line before we say yes? That's not city limit?
That's just the roadway.
Purple dash
oh, it's a property boundary, I think.
right there?
Mm-hmm, probably. If it goes away.
All right, we got one suggestion to leave it in. Anybody object to leaving it in?
No objection.
All right, it's in.
Can we just make a note, Northern, about just, we're leaving it in for consideration for addition to the thoroughfare plan, not that we're moving this forward as a high priority, let's do it now kind of thing.
Good point.
Okay. I think this is actually in the subcommittee recommendation, right, Northern?
That's what it says here.
Actually, they're talking about 3 lanes. Really, I think what they need is 2 lanes going eastbound for the traffic turning onto the interstate to the right. Going to the west, there's no real place in there to be turning with a turn lane. In other words, I think they need the capacity, which is the storage capacity for a signal light.
That parcel that's between the Nissan dealer and Sophia Circle, it's an empty parcel, is in process of planning for future commercial retail
Yeah, it's
development.
got a bunch of driveways.
So there could be up to 3 or 4 new driveways between Sophia Circle and the Nissan dealer.
I think the 3-lane section was to more or less follow the same section that's being proposed that the developer's building south of there.
Yeah. I'd say leave this one.
Yes, I agree.
I'd say leave it because some of it's already done. And then you're saying there's right of way coming.
Some of this is, a big part of this, or maybe half of this is in Bear County.
Mm-hmm.
So we really can't say much about that.
We're still talking about scenic loop?
Hmm?
Are we still talking about scenic loop?
No.
No, number 34.
Everything from the creek to the south is in Bear County.
134.
I think this one, like another one I just looked at, you have the center turn lane and right and left turns, intersect, in other words, this is just intersection improvements on this one.
And this is not part of the thoroughfare plan, so this is an existing road that we're,
It's existing county road down by Kendall Point.
It carries a lot of traffic at certain times of the day, and it's only 2 lanes, and the roadways, the right-of-way is fairly narrow, so you have the possibility of emergency vehicle impediments. I really think it warrants 3 lanes.
Especially the Bear County part. Because I'm not saying not to the Kendall County part, but on the Bear County, you're going to have that HEB back entrance.
I think the Bear County stuff is, I think it's going to get, all those roads are going to get improved in the Bear County part, aren't they?
They're building that now.
is this considered in Fair Oaks?
No.
Okay. Because just to be clear, Fair Oaks has a portion that's in Bear County. The name of this committee is the Kendall County, Bernie, Fair Oaks. So does our jurisdiction extend into the part of Fair Oaks that is in Bear County?
See what you're saying, but this
example does not fit that, but I'm just
correct.
Curious, how do we deal with those?
the roadway is in I'm almost
Fair Oaks
positive
that are
it's
in-
San Antonio.
This is ETJ.
ETJ. Correct. It's not
Right.
Fair Oaks.
Well, then isn't this a pretty simple one? It's out of our jurisdiction?
Well, north of the creek, it
Okay.
is in our jurisdiction.
And that green road, that's what goes through Lemon Creek by the new HEB.
HEB road.
Now,
I think that makes sense then, Don. Maybe we should say something about, maybe this is, Bobby, where one of our cross-county coordination projects come into play, where,
I'm going to ask you guys to look, go 3 more pages past that. And there's a suggestion that shows a lot of this roadway and more.
Oh,
more than 3, because I'm looking.
Number
23?
Number 23.
Number 23.
Oh, I see.
should the,
And what I'm suggesting is that maybe we want to just do away with 34 altogether and then modify 23, the entire part of Old Fredericksburg Road.
Well, 23, down there, the green line is what they're building now. And then when you go across 10, that's what we talked about there. That's Balcones Creek Drive. And then the dotted line was the area where they're going to build north of the airport and tie it into Upper Balcones.
And all of the yellow lines north of the green line there, those are all existing roads.
It's existing roads, yeah.
you know this number quite well, Mr. Kite. Oh, source, John Kite. All right, never mind. Source, John Kite.
And so can you explain again, the yellow in the southern part, that those are all being developed already?
Well, the yellow is already there, except the dotted ones.
I'm sorry, the dotted line is what is being developed as part of this?
Yeah, that's what he was talking about, that it's a single deal. And then the green line was the one that went from where Balcones Creek Drive ended at 10. And I just drew a straight line across, but that's what they're building now. So you're gonna have actually a road that goes and ties into the old Fredericksburg Road in Kendall County. And then it goes on up and ties into Balcones, and, not Balcones, but Cascade Caverns.
So this,
It goes up on that little red dot up there is the intersection of, Old San Antonio Road and Cascade Caverns Road.
so this seems like there's several things being said here. One is creating this high water path. What does that mean? Does that mean improving the
Bridge.
water crossings to make
Well,
larger bridges
okay,
on
but
it?
you gotta look at the rest of it that carried it all the way through. It actually went up to Topawine Road. In other words, a whole series of road improvements that would be a high water, road. And this is something, if you look at some of the recent stuff, they're talking about making some north-south connection through Bernie. Well, this would be one of them. It'd go up Plant Street once you got in there. Fry Street, Plant Street, so on.
So I feel like there's a number of things being mentioned here that I don't fully understand. So we were talking about improving low water crossings on here,
There's more than one.
multiple
Yeah.
low water crossings. And
That's part
then
of it. The other is to
make it 3 lanes.
make it 3 lanes.
And then the other part is, you said
Curves.
eliminate right angle curves.
Right.
What's in the thoroughfare plan, Joe?
Sorry.
Oh, wait a minute, this is county.
This is all in the county.
That's right.
Well, the thoroughfare plan generally comes down through here.
That's right.
We don't have Old Fred on our current thoroughfare plan.
So we'd assume it's one of those developer-driven?
This is already built.
It's already
I don't.
No, I know, but they have to, developer-driven improvements, I mean,
And maybe, is there a way to get developers to pay for improvements of this? Is that what you mean? Like
They
sort of
would
like how
have to deed
HERF
the-
was?
Yeah,
there would need to be right-of-way.
Yeah.
Well,
On that
question,
portion
Don,
Like a TIA or something?
right at the county line at Balcones Creek where the low water crossing is, which anytime it has even a decent rain, that is not good over there. Isn't that where that proposed, what's the name of it?
Lily Ranch.
Lily Ranch?
Lily Ranch is
Lily
there.
Ranch, yeah.
And the Lily Ranch development has proposed to dedicate additional right-of-way and do some additional road improvements. At one point, they had made an offer to help partially fund the reconstruction of that bridge. But we don't know what the status of that development is because they have not been able to, as far as I know, secure their water improvement purveyor, their water purveyor.
Didn't Lemon Creek say they would help with the bridge?
Lemon Creek across, they may have said that, I don't know.
Because they're in Bear County. Lemon
Right.
Creek's in Bear County.
But,
That's the limit, goes right
I mean,
along the creek.
from a transportation standpoint, to serve, if I was the commissioner for this precinct, I would want that roadway to have the right angle curves improved, and I'd want a 3-lane section there so that all the kids that are going to Geneva and to all the churches there, Curry Creek is on the northern parts of this, that this could be a reasonably convenient access route most of the time. Whether we improve that low water crossing at, that's Balcones Creek, I believe.
Yeah,
Whether
it's
we
about-
improve
It
that
is.
to 100
It is.
year, or we improve it only to 25 year, most of the time it would serve all those residents. You got Summer Glen up there, and there's quite a bit of development pressure there.
I think, Don, personally, I think I can get behind this one, minus the eliminating right angle curves, unless we know a little bit more about that. I don't know, I can't really see on here what that's going to require. Is there people that are going to be really disrupted by that?
Well, it's
to-
not, to eliminate the right angle curves, you're just gonna put in like a 500-foot or 600-foot radius. It's not you're not gonna be out buying a whole lot of property.
It depends on what you have as the design speed for that. It could be bigger than 500 or 600 feet. I don't know, are we gonna go 45? I don't know, probably 45, but it could get Figured 500 foot radius.
It's right here, right? Yeah, it's just a big street radius. It's not,
Okay, so right now it's showing there's already a curve there, right? It's not a right angle.
well,
When you drive it,
It feels like a right.
yeah,
angle.
it's pretty
you
much.
can drive it at 30.
I tell my kids to lean. Lean right, lean left.
Yeah.
Bobsled.
I will say Geneva School of Bernie's bought property and they're going to build their main access
Out to,
to the frontage road probably within the next 18 to 24 months.
Northern, can you zoom back in at that, right where it says Old Fredericksburg, right there? Yeah, go up north a little tiny bit. So there's a home right there.
see, now that one, it probably don't need to do too much to it, maybe just a little.
Would be very little there.
The one, what typically happens when you develop, sometimes they turn into four-way intersections. That's what happened to, well, not really the one just north of here, because it always went out.
Right, like, so if the property to the south developed, the road would continue straight south.
You see
Could.
the intersection of Cascade Caverns and where this peels off? That is too tight. That needs to be a rounded curve like the one down below.
Which one, sir?
The one,
Where the mouse is.
corner
shoot-
is that one right there.
They were trying to miss a tree,
Is that a four-way
and
stop?
they still had to take it out in the long run.
It's a four-way intersection now.
It's four-way, correct.
It doesn't stop, does it?
Somebody has to
Not all
stop
the way.
there.
The Cascade Caverns does not stop.
Okay, so it's straight. And so if you're turning south, you stop.
East-west does not stop.
So you just need a improved right-hand curve there.
And it looks like you might be able to fit something in there before the fence line. You can see how there's a lot of gravel shoulder where people are probably driving over it anyway,
That-
using it as a right-hand turn
That
lane.
was paved over. This is a older map. That was paved over. The one that's really bad is two 90s from here. If you go back down south.
Yep.
Northern.
So if there's,
And then go right. There is a huge rut in there. People are always going off because you got people coming out from here, and sometimes they'll swing out a little too far and runs. People come out on the right side of the road, one side or the other. Sometimes that's a funky.
Yeah, that's a poor design for sight distance.
Yes, sir. And there's two driveways and a roadway that connect there. Yeah.
Oh, that one.
Anyhow, but that's part of it, that part of the road. The improvements is 3 lanes and then do something with the.
What they could do is right there on Lemon Creek, that one right there, maybe even a roundabout potentially, depending on the amount of traffic they expect.
Could be. Well, see, it goes down here where the pointer is,
Yeah, it connects right
and
there.
that's where it goes across.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna really help the school buses, because they can go through there and not have to get on 10. Or they can get on 10 and not have to get here.
So 34 was just about Old Fredericksburg improvements.
Just for a little short section of it.
Right. 23 is mostly,
I think the northern terminus of this project 23 should end at the eastern terminus of the Cascade Caverns Road Improvement Project that TxDOT's doing for the city of Burning.
Well, that's where it ends now.
this shows it going all the way to the intersection of Old San Antonio Road.
Yeah.
And Cascade Caverns.
Okay, that section of Cascade is on our thoroughfare plan, but when it turns south at the main front entrance to South Glen, it's no longer on our thoroughfare plan.
So remove the part that's on Cascade Caverns, in other words, on here, the east-west portion of the
Yeah,
business.
you could do that. I just showed it as a continuum where
Right.
it goes through town. But yeah, that's already on the thoroughfare plan.
And I know there was some mention of the eliminate right angle curves. Was there better terminology someone could put
How
out?
about just improve?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd feel more comfortable if we were clear that we were, we'd like to say improve it within the existing right-of-way as much as possible, or something like that, that meant, that-
But what if development happens and they donate right away?
well, then that would be existing. right-of-way.
Existing right away.
They would do the road too,
Correct.
through the new process.
But I'm not going to object to it.
Or, okay. And I guess what I'm trying to say is developer-driven improvements would be totally appreciated.
Well, but the point that Jeff makes is it's not on the major thoroughfare plan, so they don't really have the ability to require a dedication or an improvement. Is that correct? Or can you?
Some of them, we can require, like for South Glen's secondary access point, that section is not on our thoroughfare plan. But by our roadway standards, that section of Cascade is substandard. So we were able to make South Glen improve a little section there to get it to fire standards.
Yeah.
But we weren't able to build, since it wasn't on the thoroughfare plan, we could have asked more.
Right.
If it had been on our thoroughfare plan.
Well, look at number 31, which is,
Before we do that, can we wrap this one up? We okay?
well, but look at 31, it's part of this, it's part of what
We do it.
23 is.
I think so.
So that's 34 and 23.
Where's 31, John?
That's, right after the one we were looking at before.
Yeah.
See, 31, that little part in green is not on the thoroughfare. What's in red, that's what's already, the city's gonna do, aren't you?
Correct. On page 31, the part in red, project 31, the part in red is in our current MPO project that we are in process of.
And that's what I was saying, we ought to carry 34 over to that point.
So number 23 takes all that into account.
Yeah.
to start with.
Yeah, 23 would.
There's something, okay, there's something I want to talk about 31 before we approve that one.
Okay.
But can we check 23 off the list?
I think so.
We're rolling 34 into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
And
don't wanna take
including
23 off the
Kendall
list.
County, Bear County collaboration,
We're adding it.
if you want to call it that.
Adding,
You
Well, I
added,
mean,
yeah.
that's
I mean,
already
just check it off. You don't.
done.
Got it, okay. Don't need to bring that up. Got it.
Because 31 is part of 23.
Okay, so are we done with 23?
I think so.
I think so.
And 31, so 31's rolled in
No,
there.
there's just one thing about 31 that I just wanted clarification on. It says, long-term, add center turn lane, additional lane in each direction, and sidewalks. So we're making it 4 lanes plus a center turn lane? Is that the recommendation?
That's what it sounds like, I believe.
I would recommend we remove that additional lane in each direction unless we're connecting to some other 4-lane roads.
What is the Cascade Caverns Road section that MPO's doing?
Well, when you tie into South Glen, you are turning into a 4-lane road, aren't you?
Our MPO submittal had a 4-lane road section.
With a centered left turn lane or not?
There's a portion of it with centered left turn lane and a portion of it had
Okay,
a
but
curb
where we tie on is,
where right now, the red line ends at Buckskin.
Wait, I have that
It
somewhere.
transitions back to the road that's there existing.
It is 4 lanes.
But from Buckskin, yeah, so this is the concept that was included with the MPO submittal.
So what are we
It's a
doing?
4-lane road section from Buckskin all the way to the roundabout.
So the roundabout is a 2-lane, right? It's like a single lane.
It's a single lane roundabout that has a slip lane for the people
I see.
heading
Right
west on
turn.
Cascade.
Yeah.
to
Right turn
north.
headed north, yeah. Somebody said South Glen was 4-lane. It's actually 2 big.
Right now it's 2.
2
It's a
15-footers with
boulevard.
bike lanes.
Correct, and the right-of-way for South Glen was such a way that it could be made into a 4-lane road in the future, but
I mean,
we
if-
only had to build 2 lanes.
from just an ambience and streetscape perspective, I think this street ought to contend continue in this streetscape mode all the way to
South Glen?
where the road takes off, yeah.
So then
Yes.
maybe long-term, we take off the add center turn lane, because that did not have a center turn lane, right? It's just 4 lanes.
It had median
There's
cuts,
some bays.
that we had
Okay.
designed median cuts. We didn't want people making left turns everywhere. We wanted
Okay.
to define where people can make left turns.
I think that's
So that's-
just like cascade
Okay.
cameras.
So continue all the way to South Glen. The same.
Yeah, so 31 would be included in 23.
I just have one more quick question, sorry. Northern,
You've been saying that for the last 6 months or 2 years.
I'm
One more
training you
question.
guys. One more question. So South Glen Boulevard there, is that a big thoroughfare connection to some other area? Is it just feeding that one neighborhood? How much is that feeding right there? So it feeds that one. And is the goal, like, okay, here we have this 4-lane road that cuts through there. What is
So
it
it's only-
meant to connect further?
On the ground, it's only 2 lanes, one each way today.
Mhm.
It's designed on our City of Bernie major thoroughfare plan. That road goes and connects to ranches at Creekside eventually.
Okay.
Connects where?
To Copper Creek that's being built within ranches at
Right.
Creekside.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand why, I mean, we're making a road that's as big as Blanco. It's like a major travel corridor for the town in a little neighborhood. Like, why does it need such heavy build out?
One is not a little neighborhood.
Oh, right.
And two, they don't front that road, which is a lot better than running a road that size through a neighborhood that homes front to.
Sure.
Really, when you get to looking at capacity and effectiveness, efficiency, if you've got, like there, you've got a divided roadway with a single road on either side, curved. Okay, if you ever have a breakdown, you pretty much block the road. So if you had just a 3-lane road in there, it has more capacity than just the 2 lanes because you never block it with turning movements. So, to me, I'm always leaning towards the 3-lane roadway.
That's my sense too. I mean, we've talked so much about Blanco, about the safety improvements of a 3-lane road over a 4-lane road, and how a 4-lane road gains you 10% more capacity than a 3-lane road with the turning lane in the middle. So as I was looking at this, I'm just wondering, why are we wanting to build more of these roads that we've determined are fairly unsafe and don't really get us the capacity that we want to connect it to
So the
neighborhood there?
city is waiting for this body to finish so that we can update our thoroughfare plan with a lot of the recommendations from this group. But yeah, definitely the existing thoroughfare plan has quite a few 4-lane road sections. And that's probably something that we'll look at doing, is converting a lot of those based on all the new stuff we've learned here, is to make a lot of them 3-lane. I would agree with that statement.
Yeah.
Can you hold on just a minute? But we're going to go to public comment in about 15 minutes, so we're close to getting through here.
But this is like a backdoor way of doing the bypass road again. I thought we dropped this. I mean, I had to get up and speak about this, that they want 4 lanes, the city wants 4 lanes. Eventually, they want to take the 2 lanes inside South Glen, unbeknownst to the people that live there, the realtors didn't tell them, expand that to 4 lanes, and then shoot out the back to connect to Gateway. They just won't drop this. Drop this, drop this, drop this. They won't stop. They just won't. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, I hope we can just not subscribe to this one. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Cowell. Okay, we have finished 31.
31, yeah.
Wait, do we finish 31?
I believe we did.
I would like to recommend that we say the 3-lane road there. I mean,
We don't want to continue the same streetscape.
is that done? Is that a done project? It's being done as 4 lanes the whole way?
We're just now starting design of that.
I think,
Three lanes?
I think it makes sense to continue from, people are used to it, they're driving down, it's that same traffic pattern. Why change it on them?
Well,
In the mid-block.
It's
No, I-
more
I
signage and more
agree.
confusion.
No, I agree. My question is that what would happen? Is it already 4 lanes there? It's not, it's designed as 4 lanes, it's gonna be 4 lanes, and then, because I agree, I don't think going down to 3 lanes makes sense. If it's already 4 lanes, keep it. But if there's an opportunity for us to recommend to the city that, in
all of it?
general, the 4-lane roads, they don't give us much improvement and they're less safe.
Again, I've always been opposed to a single lane curve on both sides. Because if you have a breakdown, it blocks the road. But if you have a 3-lane road there, you've always got an emergency bypass.
And so what is the section of Cascade Caverns that's in the MPO project?
It's a 4-lane section.
It's a
4-lane
divided,
Section with the median.
So it's paid
the
for
median.
and happening. And
so
I
you
mean, we submitted, the city of Bernie first made an MPO submittal, the previous call for projects, and believe it or not, the public outcry about the roundabout got it where we didn't get selected, because no one wanted the roundabout, so we didn't get selected for that time. We basically, the next 5 years later, call for projects, we resubmitted a very similar project. The only thing we really did is we took the bike lanes off of the pavement and added them to a shared use path, and we resubmitted it, and then the new scoring system and the new public feedback, the roundabout did very well, and we got selected. And so now we are just now in the initial design stages. We're going to be bringing a large engineering contract to city council in the next couple months to really get kicked off in design.
so it's not destined to be a 4-lane road at this
Correct.
point, is what you're saying? So,
Correct.
in my opinion, I just recommend, we would suggest that for that whole stretch, it be 3 lanes. I think the safety benefits, and you get very minimal improvement from the 4-lane. That'd be my recommendation.
I don't know, and I'd have to look into, and again, it was submitted as a 4-lane, because that's what the city's major thoroughfare plan 10 years ago called for, a 4-lane section.
Well, then, could
But
we
I would-
specify that, I mean, if it's gonna be 4 lanes, if it's set up as 4 lanes, I agree with you guys, it should not bottleneck down to 3 lanes.
So I'd have to go back and look, because again, how the MPO, I mean, I don't know the exact rules if we turned in a 4-lane road and say, nope, now we want to do a 3-lane.
Right.
Nope, that project is different.
I think as long as you can carry the traffic, that
Exactly.
either way, I think we're saying the same
But,
thing.
yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea if the political atmosphere doesn't get in the way. You had on paper 4 lanes, and now you're going to say 3.
Correct.
Broadway suffered, Comfort suffered. There may be a veto.
We're not suffering in silence, so.
Yeah. I don't think it's the end of the world if they veto it, but I think I think what we know now, we're looking at trying to make our 4-lane roads into 3-lane roads, and so.
Oh, it's a good idea.
So I think the resolution is, we want to include the green section, it's shown on 31, in a similar fashion to Cascade Caverns. The entire section, we lean towards encouraging it to be a 3-lane section, provided it works for from a traffic standpoint.
And intersections are created
Sure.
for the flow, it may be 4 or 5 at the intersections.
Sure. Wide nodes.
Wide nodes,
Now,
perfectly fine with that.
now we got 23 done, right?
But not 21.
We missed 21, and we
5
missed
points.
22, and then everything after 30, back to 23.
Don, on 21, haven't we beaten that horse pretty good? And that the
Yeah,
5 points.
I think we can get through that one. 21 is another one of John Kite's designs, but I think that we have a resolution, don't we, Northern, at that location?
Short
From the
and
committee
long
source?
term.
I think so.
There was
I mean, we've got the interim report, and it says do a roundabout, so.
There was a short and a long-term
The
proposal.
city's looking at a short-term and a long-term at this location, and we have a short-term that's very similar, different to this. I mean, I have 12 different versions
Yeah.
to fix this intersection. And we have one that's real similar to this as well.
How far is that intersection along the main road? I mean, this would,
Main?
it's one good option, Mr. Kite, but I guess my concern is the distance.
Between
No, they're about 300.
The other issue with this one is it requires right-of-way from a private landowner to do this as
And it
it's going.
split their triangle property.
And the other one did not, right? Or is
One
like
that's a little
very,
more-
yeah.
Well, but you gotta remember, TxDOT said they're not gonna support a turnaround there.
Currently, not yet.
You mean roundabout?
I mean, a roundabout, yeah.
I like Jeff's answer, not
Not
yet.
yet, I know.
Yeah.
Always-
Coming from the council member?
But this would work, and Bobby, the distance there, what I did is fixed it like each one would emulate a frontage road. And if
I see what you're saying.
this existing signal light would be used here, the other one would be unsignalized, but if it ever need to be, you could signalize it, it would
Time
function
them.
exactly like,
Sure.
interchange.
That is a center lane to center lane frontage.
But I mean, this is something that could be done just bingo, quick,
Mm-hmm.
and solve a lot of our problems.
Except for the right-of-way acquisition.
Right-of-way acquisition.
Well, I imagine the right of way could be pretty easy.
So what do we want to do with this?
I think
We've got
I
the
think we have
roundabout.
pretty good plans that have already been laid out, so.
Okay, suggestion that is addressed adequately by others.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, the next one proposes to extend a roadway across, I believe that's Cibolo Nature Center.
Other
No.
side,
No.
this is behind Longhorn.
Oh, this is the one behind Longhorn. This
Yes.
is, the
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
So I did hear, did we hear that there's talks about that property potentially selling? Have we, am I misremembering something? Okay. Possibly, okay.
I think this is a good idea.
I mean, I think if I would recommend it be part of the thoroughfare plan. I don't think it's a good enough idea where we, break
Well,
someone's.
Well, I think the
reasons-
one caveat there would be is if there's going to be improvements to Herf Road, River and Herf, intersection, then that may need to be utilized as a connector to facilitate that improvement.
Because you're right, there are big downsides to additional intersections, having another stoplight, another stop sign, or something, more cars pulling off. So is the idea that this is a emergency-only road?
That's how John presented it.
Yeah.
That's what I submitted as an emergency hot water road. I mean, you can do this before the city ever gets in there and tries to redo the whole intersection, bring it up out of the water.
And the other part is if this road were in place, we might not necessarily need to go bring up the other intersection 9 feet, because this would be a way that we could get through without unflooded access.
A bypass, like a fix to
Correct,
that.
yeah.
But you don't solve the
Which
folks coming from Herf or River.
What was that, Ben?
What's that?
So your question.
Well, I was just going to chime in right quick, guys. I'm sorry I'm like the voice of God or whatever, but
Not exactly.
not literally. Not literally. I can only imagine being in the room. So I think it's a really cost-sensible solution because the cost of elevating the Herf River Road intersection is just absurd. And this seems like a very cost-sensible solution. And I also think it could play into some other creative solutions for that whole intersection area where we see so much congestion. And frankly, we've talked about that on the city's mobility master plan committee, using the cutoff there creatively to solve some congestion issues.
It can be developed in,
One of the reasons you notice that red dot there, that's where the creek crosses and is flooded. So what I did is brought it in north of there. So this is another high water route that you have available.
I can see in some cities, you have retail centers develop in a backage road or a back road. And this could be part of that back road that's always open for the retail shops that face that road in the back. And
Yeah.
it's, when it floods, PD goes out there and shoves people one way instead of the other.
So John, was your idea that this road is open all the time or only open if it's an emergency?
Well, when I drew it up was as an emergency, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be.
It would be normally a stop
In case of
condition.
construction or something.
It wouldn't be convenient to use, it'd be more
There it is.
convenient than normal.
It does seem like if you're going, I'm sorry, this map is not north-south. If you're
No.
going westbound on
Yes, it is.
I-10,
It is north.
Pretty much is.
is it?
Oh, the
This
one
one's
that
not.
Northern just brought up.
This one is.
Oh, okay, that one is,
Yeah.
right. So,
Pull it down a little bit, Northern.
so if you're going westbound
Bingo.
on River Road, I could easily see people, I'm sorry, River Road there, I could easily see people making right turn movements onto this to get
Yeah.
onto
Yep.
Esser instead of going down
Which
to,
would impact that intersection.
which would make it could make a interesting spot happen right there.
Kind
I
of just like
think
that
as-
enterprise that we were talking to, a relief valve
Yeah,
almost
correct.
for that intersection.
Removes a bottleneck.
And is an emergency, like either way. it can-
Okay, we got one or multiple suggestions to include it. Does anybody object to including this?
I would just
Okay.
add that this recommendation is for it to be included in the city's thoroughfare plan. We're not recommending that, unless the recommendation is otherwise. That would be my suggestion.
Well, I mean, I think if the city wants to purchase that easement or right away, then that's cool too. But I get your point. We're not using eminent domain to acquire it. Yeah.
But it gives the city, I think, leverage. Should that property be developed, it kind of forces the developer to kind of plan around that so they can use it as a back road to access their development to their retail stores, et cetera, if it is retail.
See. No, I mean, look,
I think the voice of God got it.
Time's up.
That's what he gets for pretending to be God.
I originally proposed this works, but it could be expanded.
All right, we are at 23, and we have 10 minutes left. I suggest that we defer these others so that we give them adequate consideration at the next meeting. And that we go ahead and move to public comment. Ms. Gerhart.
Can you mute Ben?
It might be it might be our computer.
If it's our computer, yeah.
Oh, you think it is?
I can text him also to maybe.
Well, I can talk loud.
Pull the plugs.
Go ahead.
Okay. Today was a meeting I don't think that I ever thought I was going to hear what I heard today. I mean, y'all talk about a road on Old Fredericksburg Road with 3 90s in it, or at least the illustration said that you might soften. But last week you're talking about taking out 90s on Amon because it's dangerous. I mean, it's hypocrisy. You know, you talk about, Jeff talks about 10 years ago master plan going through crossing the Cibolo. I didn't think the Cibolo was going to get crossed. Was the farm sold down the river 10 years ago? If it did, tell us so we can lawyer up. I mean, today, I don't even know how many times I heard thoroughfare plan, support thoroughfare plan. You know, Luke, what happened? Did y'all have a pre-meeting and say we're going to ram this down everybody's throat? When a month ago, 6 weeks ago, this was all dead? I mean, today, based on everything you're doing, you're just making joints to do Gateway, which Gateway's dead. On the city website, it says it refers to mobility from 18. Gateway was taken off that. Gateway's dead. I mean, make a stand and tell us the truth. Stop lying if y'all are lying. It's completely frustrating, and it's hypocrisy. I mean, I'm sorry. I appreciate all y'all's time. We're putting in time too. But this is extremely frustrating. Those of us in the ETJ are not represented on this committee. We don't have representation in Bernie. We can't vote for them, and the county has no control at this point. Extremely frustrating.
Did we just lose our Zoom connection?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Jeff said it froze on his end.
yes, sir. Yes. That's okay, but please give us your
Hey,
name and where you live.
I'm Maxie Zinsmeister, and I live in Bergheim, but I'm the only poor person in Bergheim, okay? So,
Thank you.
Again, I came to this meeting not knowing what it was going to be all about, okay? And one of the reasons that I chose to come was because on your little announcement, with your agenda, you said you were going to talk about mitigating current traffic. I don't think I heard anything about mitigating traffic. Okay, again, I heard talk about, well, we're going to put a sign out to route traffic down 3351 to get out to I-10. Well, that's a bad idea because I live on 3351, okay? When I go out in the morning, okay, and school is in session, Voss Middle School, I just built that thing, I have to sit at the end of my driveway 10, 15 minutes watching cars go by, okay? One mom, one kid, endless, okay? In the evening, same thing. School's out, car after car after car. So my idea, if I might make a suggestion for the mitigation aspect, let's put a toll booth at every school, okay? Go to every school when school is coming in session or it's going out and look at the cars lined up, people picking up their kids. Why can't they get on buses, okay? Our new bond election, we're buying new buses, okay? Let's force these kids to get on a bus to reduce the traffic, reduce the emissions, all that green energy stuff, okay? Let's force them into these buses, get traffic off the roads, okay? And again, mitigation. You guys wanted to put signs up for directions, all that kind of stuff. Look, I have a good sign for directions. Kendall County is full, okay? Go to Comal. They're open for business, okay? And the other thing, okay, that we're coming up here, okay? Again, I'm one of the poor guys in Bergheim, but I got my Dear John letter, okay, from the Kendall Appraisal District, okay? Mr. Appraisal District decided that my property is worth 80% more than it was last year, okay? So me as the red-blooded American, I go appeal my case, okay? And in putting together my little speech that I was going to give to them, what I'm finding out is that people in Kendall Woods, all these subdivisions that are around me, their appraisals are going up 30 to 40%. Why is Mr. Poor Guy going up 80%? Well, I look at my neighbors who happen to have land around their house. They're all going up 70 to 80%. So again, what's happening here? Okay? They're forcing people that have property, okay? My property came from my grandparents to me, okay? Is it going to get passed to my son? Hell no, it isn't, because of the tax rates, okay? You guys are all going to be in business, okay, figuring out how much we're going to pay for taxes ultimately. But again, what are you going to do to preserve all of these ranches out here. Okay, again, we heard that they're going to put 950 houses on 50 acres. Okay, well, they can put a lot of houses on my 75. So how is that mitigating traffic in my area? It ain't. It's only going to increase. So what you need to do is when you guys do your tax stuff, you need to figure out how you keep guys from, like me, from having to leave this county so that you bring more people in. Okay? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zinsmer. Anyone else in the audience want to? Lance Kyle, you used about 30 seconds of your statement a while ago, but go ahead and come up and use the rest of it now.
I thought in the dirt before, I thought it was 1 minute. I'm sorry, Don.
Okay, you're down to a minute and a half now.
Let me go back to John's slide, John. The north-south high water corridor slide, the resurrection of the then that other slide after it was, again, resurrection of the bypass road. I'm sorry, guys. It is. I want to comment about the intersection there at Old Fred and Cascade Caverns Road. The crew of good old boys came out from, what's that site prep group? Starts with a V, from San Antonio. Valtran or whatever. They came out back in 2020. They chopped down an ancient oak tree there on the corner for no apparent reason. And they put in they widened the right of way. They put in kind of a turn lane connecting Cascade to Old Fred. They widened that a little bit, and then they just disappeared. The intersection, the project, according to the county and the city, was supposed to be a straightening. It never got straightened. So I don't know what the heck happened. They ran out of money. They ran out of manpower. I don't know. It was kind of goofy. Anyway, fortunately, they did not turn that into a four-way stop street because Cascade Caverns is the arterial there. That little road to Aberdeen, that little secondary access point into South Glen is not an arterial. It should be stopped. The Old Fred side is, I don't know, debatable, I guess. But I'm glad they kept the major arterial open. I battled with the city on, further up the road at that intersection of Ranch Drive, Cascade, and the entrance to South Glen Parkway a couple years ago. Fortunately, on one side, they didn't put the stop sign, but on the other side, they put the stop sign, which was, again, obstructing the major arterial. Ranch Drive is not an major arterial. South Glen Parkway is not a major arterial. But the city loves putting up stop signs. They like putting up 35-mile-per-hour stop signs, speed signs. They like putting up 25-mile-an-hour speed signs. It's just more control, more control, more control everywhere you look where the city is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kyle. And you were at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Good time. Any other comments from the audience? And if people are listening on Zoom somehow that we can't tell, we apologize that we've lost our Zoom connection. Closing comments, Northern, coming around, Rich?
I will have that for Friday. Do I need to make any other revisions, as Mr. Kite suggested, to the document, to the body of the document? He had a couple of them, but if you all have no objection, I'll make those changes.
Let me ask, where do we stand on the policies section?
The policy section I sent out to the committee on Friday at 10 with the reformatting, and I had a lengthy email, my apologies, but with some recommendations. Suggestions to make it fit better. I received two comments from Gary, from Mr. Kite, and I think that was it.
So has the rest of that committee bought off on that? Thank you, Jeff.
I have not been able to look at it yet. I was out of town for the whole weekend.
Can you look at my email?
Yeah, I saw your
and also
email.
Mr. Kite's.
You made one statement about moving some of the eminent domain language into another section, I'd like to just look at that and
Okay.
see. But otherwise,
I'd really like to, if y'all could button that up for the next
Yes.
meeting 2 weeks from today.
You bet.
We need to make sure we're buttoned up.
That's why I brought it up, yes.
Don, in that regard, Don, I was going to ask it, even though we approved it, and I appreciate Bobby's efforts in the formatting has changed around and he's consolidated some sections, so I'd like to at least affirm it one more time.
Yes, I think we should, yeah.
I'm hoping it reads
And
better.
and if, where we fit in the component that we talked about earlier today.
Roundabouts.
Roundabout.
I'll work on that one. I'll shove it in there, not shove, put it in there as well. Yes.
Well, it'd be helpful also if we had a point of reference. I mean, we've referred to what Fort Worth or Tarrant County has done, whether we're trying to mirror that or if we're creating our own, because we mentioned new roundabouts. Is that new construction or is that old intersections that we're rehabbing and things like that?
I do think it definitely makes sense to make a reference to the fact that another major Texas city has a similar policy.
Got it.
Thank you.
I'm good. I'm okay.
All right. Well, we're adjourned. We'll meet here again in 2 weeks. Hopefully, we will wrap up this, take care of the policy section, and then hopefully engage on the committee source, the crowdsource stuff, and start getting that into short-term and long-term, and begin to wrap this thing up.